Staying with us on the South African morning. It is time now to have a look at exactly what you can catch on your weekend papers. I know it's a big one. I think big conversations are around the State of the Nation address that took place on Thursday, and of course doing a little bit of a review of what transpired. And Rofhiwa so says in the Sunday Times. In fact, the big headline there on the Sunday Times this morning is Cyril's power play, saying that the President Cyril Ramaphosa has taken key government functions into his office, setting up what critics say are parallel government structures, but which those close to him saying that they are long overdue and essential to ensure the government gets things done. So it looks as though he is centralizing power. And of course, this also comes at the back of that announcement of Sipho Nkosi, for example, who has been put into the presidency to help with cutting the red tape where small business is concerned. So they're saying that he is centralizing almost power, super presidency designed to bring expertise to government. And of course, critics say it shows a president who is insecure and distrustful. And meeting of economy ministers resolved to speed up decisions. I don't know.
Look. We've had 6 State of the Nation addresses.
Yes, we have.
And these pronouncements have been made by the president time and time again. In fact, there have been task teams, advisory councils, and all sorts of establishments that have been put together to address all of these issues. We are seeing now that increasingly he's bringing in people from the private sector, the former chief executive of Exara, as you've just mentioned, to get into this whole narrative of entrepreneurship and cutting the red tape. But will it yield any fruit? And also, this is the year of the ANC conference. Does he have time between now and December, when the new president is elected, to implement as much as he can? I wonder. It's great that all of these initiatives are happening, but I wonder if there's any time for it to actually bear any fruit.
I wonder if you're saying that. I mean, there's also been conversations around, never mind it bearing fruit, but what is the role then of these government departments? With all of these ministers, right? What is the role? Is the role of the DG, the DDG, the head of department, not to implement the cutting of the red tape? If you have to take somebody as astute as Mr. Sipho Nkosi is from the outside and bring him in to assist when it comes to small business development and businesses in South Africa, I ask the question as an ordinary South African, then why do I have a Minister of Small Business Development?
Right.
Yeah.
And these ministers are they're never very talkative. We never hear from them all that much, do we?
No.
Anyway, Faith, this one is a very simple headline that's coming out of today. It doesn't say it, but I'll say it. It's basically saying, you cannot run away from the tax man. Matla Koko's wife in a 50 million rand tax headache. So it says that the taxman has obtained a default judgment against her, and now the couple is risking losing properties after SARS threatened to attach them to retrieve their 15 million rand. And I'll just read the first sentence of this article here, saying that the former Eskom CEO Matla Koko's wife has been slapped with a devastating 48 million rand tax bill. Elizabeth Musima Koko now faces the possibility of losing her properties as a taxman threatens to attach and sell them to offset the blood-curdling bill. People just never learn.
Blood-curdling bill. 50 million rand is not an easy thing.
Yeah, and I think because we have very few streams of revenue currently at the moment, tax as Faith, as South Africa. Listen, I called you tax. As South Africa, we've got very few revenue streams, and we rely heavily on our taxes. So the taxman's going to be extremely stringent when it comes to complying. And so I assume, and I'm hoping that this is not the case, but I'm thinking that this is probably going to be one of many stories of people who thought they could get away without paying their tax.
You know what, actually, can I be honest? As much as I always say that the SARS must be able to go after those that are non-compliant, and because we pay our taxes every single month and we take it to the revenue services, can the taxman also equally have as much passion to those businesses that have got foreign investment, to those multinationals that try to limit how much tax can be collected from them, to those individuals that are in the country but are taking money out of the country. So with the same amount of passion and enthusiasm as you go for the likes of, as we've seen there with Matla Koko as well as the wife, can we also go about and collect taxes from, there are major corporations, we know this, right, who are seeking to take money out of this country, put it in tax havens. We saw that even with the Nugent Commission, some of those recommendations actually came out of that, right? So let's not run away from the fact that there are businesses that are taking money out of this country and are evading taxes. And those companies have not accounted for the wrongs that they're doing. So deal with them as well with the same amount of enthusiasm as you deal with this. That's
Absolutely.
what I'm saying.
That's all you're saying. Very controversial, you are, Faith.
I mean, I'm spicy on a Sunday. Don't you worry about it.
Very briefly, I think we have to wrap up, but very briefly, Business Times today, two big headlines which were making the rounds during the week. Mall owners are suing over COVID losses. So you'll know that property, the sector rather, suffered heavily during COVID-19, not only office spaces, but malls when there was that lack of foot traffic coming through and the lack of government support there. So it says that the property sector insurers have been taken to court over the loss of rental income during the lockdown. So that's probably going to be quite a heavy case that's going to be followed through with. And then another controversial one, and I suppose it's with the theme of this tussle between South Africans and foreign nationals. Huawei is facing a 1.5 million rand fine over foreigners.
Rofhiwa, did you see that story? Now, it ran on Friday saying that the deal that was supposed to be structured with Huawei was a 60-40 split. 60% of locals, 40% of foreign nationals. From what it came about, and you'd correct this because you're an expert in this, 90% of the staff or the human capital of Huawei was actually foreign nationals.
Yes.
And what bugs me to this day is why are you slapping them with a 1.5 million rand fine? That is, if you have to ask me, that is a violation at its highest orders.
Chump change.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because how much do they make per month? All they can do is go into their petty cash and take out some money and say, here you go, here's your 1.5 million, we've already fulfilled the mandate. And the thing is, that kind of stuff that bothers us.
It really is bothering. And as you say that, Huawei is right up there with Apple and Samsung. In fact, it's actually competing with Samsung as the second biggest device maker in the world, you know. So they're not short of any change or money, right? And the problem here is this only started being investigated, if I'm not mistaken, Faith, in 2020. Huawei has been in South Africa for years. And I think that they have not been complying before 2020. You know, so these deals are made within offices, and then when someone raises an eyebrow, suddenly people are scurrying to right the wrong. But I have my suspicions about them being in the country and the fact that they've been allowed to go for so long as they have, and only now, at only 1.5 billion rand cost, are they being outed.
1.5 million.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm saying, that if we're going to be going after people that are non-compliant, right, can we have the same amount of enthusiasm also placed on establishments and institutions in this country that have been non-compliant for a long time? It does not make sense why there was no monitoring and evaluation from Huawei to ensure that there was that 60-40 split. There's no excuse for it. And then to turn around and say 1.5 million rand is your fine for doing so. What are you saying about South? And then when South Africans complain and say, listen, we have no problem with legal foreign nationals being in the country, but we have a problem with the way in which South Africans feel marginalized from jobs. You want to defend it. This, you can't defend this.
You can't. And here's a big, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here. What about the argument that they say, well, South Africa is begging for foreign investment. If we're going to be hard on these foreign companies that are setting up base in South Africa, they'll just leave, and then we'll lose investment, and then our economy will be in the doldrums. How do we respond to that argument?
Well, the truth is it's a win-win situation. These multinationals need to be in the country because they need to expand their network and they need to be able to expand their customer base, right? So it's not necessarily that they're doing us a favor. No. We're doing them a favor by being able to purchase Huawei. For us going into a store and purchasing our items, it means that we as South Africans have got purchasing power. If we would use our purchasing power and say, actually, hold on a second, have that 60-40 split. If you want me to go into a store and purchase a Huawei product and device, then I can stay with it. But we mustn't behave as though they're doing us a favor. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here.
We forget that sometimes, don't we, as South Africans? We really, really do. Anyway.